بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والله على بعض في الرزق فما الذين فضلوا بواد رزقهم على ما ملكت أيمانهم في أيمانهم فهم فيه سواء بنعمة الله يجحدون صدق الله العلي العظيم. I have recited to you chapter 16 verse 71. And Allah has made some of you excel others in the means of subsistence. The word used here is rizq, which is generally taken to be food and so on. And Allah has made some of you excel others in the means of subsistence. So those who are made to excel give not away their sustenance to those whom their right hands possess, so that they may be equal therein. Will they then deny the favor of Allah? As I said, this is chapter 16, verse 71. And I want to have a look at and see what is meant by Rizq. Rizq is generally, as I said, taken to mean food, sustenance, food and so on. But it does not just mean food. It means everything. For example, in chapter 63, verse 10, we find, and spend out of that which we have given you before death comes to one of you. And he says, my Lord, why did you not respite me to a near term so that I should have given alms and been the doers of good? Sorry, I recited the wrong verse here. Now, what I wanted to recite was chapter 3, verse 169, which says, and think not of those who are killed in Allah's way as dead. No, they're still living, being provided sustenance from their Lord. Inda Rabbihim yurzaqun. And yurzaqun comes from rizq as well. So, that shows that rizq has a very wide meaning. It means everything that we have and we need, everything granted in this life and in the hereafter. It can also be used to mean fate. Someone's fate. But the interesting thing is, if it means everything that some person needs in the hereafter, then of course, whatever we need in the next life, it applies to that as well. So if you go back, and Allah has made some of you excel others with rizq. Allah badim fir rizq. Allah has made some of you excel others in the means of subsistence. So the way you can earn a living, some people have more ability, capacity, and some people have less. And God says that people who have this extra capacity, what do? They greedily keep it for themselves. They don't share it with others. It doesn't just mean money. It includes money, but it doesn't just mean money. Whatever skill you have, whatever expertise you have, you may be a teacher and you may see someone has come from a foreign country, their English is not very good, but that person has the ability and the intention to be able to make something of themselves. You don't have to give them money. You can give them extra tuition in English to bring them up to the level that is needed. In England, we have something called Citizens Advice Bureau. And there they have non-lawyers who have access to sources of law, who advise people who cannot afford to go to a lawyer who's going to charge them. But apart from non-lawyers, there are solicitors and attorneys who give a day or half a day to the people who go to Citizens Advice Bureau because these people cannot afford. And what are they doing? They are doing what this verse of the Holy Quran says. Allah made these people excel, but they actually share and give away their skill that they have. And God says people don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because they think that those less fortunate, those less qualified will become their equal. And this happens. This happens frequently. That, you have someone in your house painting, and it's lunchtime and you sit down for a meal. And most people wouldn't even offer that person any food. Those that do will make them sit outside or somewhere where the family is not eating. They wouldn't give them a chair at the dining table. Why? And the reason is given by the Holy Quran here. Because they think if they let them have a chair at the dining table, then these people would seem to be their equal. But they're masters. And they've hired someone. How dare this person sit down at the same table with them? So in everything, whether it's a doctor with his medical skills or lawyer with his legal skills or teacher with his teaching skills and so on, they all excel above others in those things. Some people are very rich. They excel in having more money than others. And certainly those people, and this is a very socialist idea. The Holy Quran says that they give not away their sustenance to those whom their right hands possess. Generally, this is translated as slaves. I mean, it is radical teaching if you restrict it to just slaves. You had slaves in Britain, you had slaves in France, you had slaves in America. Which slave owner asked the slave to join him at his dinner table, or treat them equally and gave them the same clothes to eat, the same clothes to wear as they do? Particularly when you have Christmas and other occasions and Eid and so on coming along. But I take a much wider view of ma malakat aymanuhum, those whom their right hands possess. I say it doesn't necessarily mean those that they own, but those over whom they have authority. So if you work in an office and you have a team, and you have more knowledge than members of that team, and one of them makes a mistake, or lack of knowledge or expertise or whatever, and what you do is you don't tell him how to correct his mistake. The best of bosses, they will say, give it to me, I'll fix it for you. Why? Because they don't want these people to be equal to them. If I have a certain expertise and I have a member of my, I don't know, software team or testing team or whatever, or project team, and I can pass on that expertise to him, then he's my equal. Next time he doesn't have to come to me. I don't want that. I want to be superior to him. But I want to be nice as well. Oh, that's okay, give it to me, I'll sort it out for you. Why don't you tell him how to sort it out? Why don't you train him? But we can take a much wider view. There is a person who owns a factory, and it has several hundred people laboring away. People in the offices, people in the stores, people in the production line, and so on. And the factory makes a huge amount of profit. This is why he's rich. This is why he keeps the factory open. Now, God has given him. Allah has made some of you excel others in the means of subsistence. So God has granted him this. It's not yours. It's a gift from God. So that factory owner, rather than keeping all that profit for himself, he can do many things. He can say, okay, I will provide free education for all your children. Maybe open a school, maybe not open a school, but pay the workers' children's school fees. Or say, I'll provide free medical treatment for all of you. Remember, this is separate and different from zakat, from fitrana, from other charity. This is not charity. This is not charity. God is saying, I gave you these things. Why don't you share them with others? Do you really want a worker's wife to come and beg you? My husband is ill. I can't afford his medical treatment. And you think this is Ramadan and I have to give zakat, and you say, oh, okay, I'll pay for your husband's medical treatment. This is beyond that. This is without the needy person asking. This is trying to make sure that that need doesn't arise. If you say, everyone who works there, we will provide free medical treatment for them, for their wives, for their children, and so on. When the person falls ill, his wife doesn't have to come and beg you for money. Because you created an entitlement. God said, I created all humans equal, men and women. But then I made some of them excel. God did this. So why don't they share my bounty with others? This is a test. Elsewhere, the Holy Quran says that God tests you in many ways. He tests you by taking things away from you. And he tests you by giving you things. And the harder test is when you have been granted abundance of something. That's the harder test, because you want to keep it, you want to hog it, you don't want to share it. There is a common thing that has happened in India and Pakistan, and that has destroyed a whole profession. And that profession was hikmat. Hikmat, though generally means wisdom, it becomes medicine. And those hakims, they used local herbs and things to treat people. And it was very cheap. But what did each hakim do? What did each hakim do? He kept his diagnosis, how he diagnosed the disease, what medication he prescribed for it, a secret. He didn't train anyone else. He didn't pass on his secrets to others because he was afraid. If I do that, then others will become skilled. My patients will go to them. I will lose money. So every hakim had to start from zero. If this hakim had written down all his experience and everything and got to this point, then the next man would have started at that point and developed that. But he kept everything hidden. So next person who came along to become a hakim, he couldn't start here. He'd have to start there. So that field of medicine never developed. Why? Because of these people's violation of God's command. I made you excel in knowledge of medicine and treatment. Why don't you share it with others? And people didn't. And God says that this amounts to denying God's favor. Being grateful for God's favors, it's not enough that every now and then you say Alhamdulillah. After every meal, you say Alhamdulillah. Yes, you should. I'm not saying don't say that. But you are not fully thanking God for his bounties. You will only fully thank God if you share what he has given you with others who are less fortunate, without their asking for it. As I said, there are two things. You have zakat and fitrana and so on. And these are the things, when there is someone who's needy, he can go and say, I'm needy, can you help me? But this is above and beyond that. Ma malakat aymanuhum can be interpreted as those less fortunate than you. Those less fortunate than you. I have given you more. Neighbor doesn't have a car. He or she needs to go to the hospital. God has made you excel in the means of subsistence. Why don't you give them a lift? Okay, you might have to wait for an hour or two. What is it that is so important that you're doing that you can't spare an hour or two for your neighbor or your friend or whoever? The Quranic teaching is much wider than we take it to be. Like the word rizq. We just say, well, it's food. Okay, a beggar knocks on the door and we'll give him 2 chapatis and some meat and so on. We've done our duty. No, you haven't. You've done nothing. You should have made arrangements as a society. As a society, you should have made arrangements. The government should have made arrangements. Voluntary sector should have made arrangements. So that person doesn't need to go and knock on someone's door and say, I'm hungry, please give me something. And the saddest part of the thing is that this is more common in those countries where Muslims are in a majority. In those places where Muslims are, in the West, governments have tried to make arrangements so people don't have to beg. But in our countries, that is not the case. Which I find to be a sad reflection on our moral state. This is the month of Ramadan, and we say we fast, we go hungry so that we may learn how a hungry person feels, which is good. But then what's the next step? The next step is to make sure there are no hungry people in your area. Start with your street. Let it spread to your area, then your town, then your city. We have fasted. But we should ask ourselves, have we fasted or have we simply gone hungry? And in most cases, the answer will be blatantly obvious, that all we've done is simply gone hungry. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم إنه تعالى جواد كريم ملك بالرؤوف الرحيم. Alhamdulillah نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا اللهم اخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا من عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah. Qad qamatis salah, qad qamatis salah. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. Allahumma ankas. Bana. We will now say janaza prayer in absence of some members who were passed away during the last week and whose funeral prayers have already funerals have already taken place in various countries. Just to remind you that this is four rakahs, four takbirs, and after the first takbir, you just sort of start as you would your normal prayer, and then after the second takbir, you say the durood, and after the third takbir, you say the funeral prayer either in your own language or in Arabic if you know the Arabic prayer, and then with the fourth takbir, the funeral prayer ends. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is Jumatul Wida, last Friday in Ramadan, and in the last 10 days, people dedicate themselves with greater fervor to prayer, etc. But I just want to remind you that service of humanity is an important part of the religion of Islam. And you can ask Allah to forgive you for any lapses in your duty to Him, but any lapses to your duty to serve humanity, He won't forgive. Or it'll be much harder to get forgiveness for those. So please keep this in mind. Assalamu alaikum. Khuda Hafiz. Goodbye.